Today, I would like to talk to you about getting paid for simply existing. How to get paid for simply existing. Now, this might sound like a bold statement, but if you've been watching my videos over the years, not just on this channel here, but my other channel, which has over 400,000 subscribers, you see that that is exactly what I did, and that is exactly what my clients have done. They got paid for simply existing. Now, I wrote about it. I wrote a book called The Direct Path to $1 million. Turn what you already have into a fortune. If you're interested in the book, I'll link in the description to it. Spoken from experience, having built 3 successful businesses and having generated multiples of millions of dollars since I became a full-time entrepreneur in 2009. Now, if a person thinks of the term entrepreneurship, they may think that they need to do this or that, whatever it may be. You name it, some force, stress-based, or some kind of boring thing that you don't genuinely desire to do and get paid for it. While that is a way to make money, that is not what I'm talking about in this video, and that is not what I talk about on this channel. What we talk about is that you are right now standing on your own acres of diamonds, as Russell Conwell put it in his wonderful book, Acres of Diamonds. Now, if you look at it outwardly, you could say the diamonds are the relationships, the physical assets, the digital assets, the intangible assets. And these kinds of assets can be converted or transmuted into producing products and services. So yes, you can get paid by rearranging what already exists here. That's how, for example, when I built my IT business, what I did is I generated one stream of the multiple streams of revenue that the business had through taking an open source software called Open Bravo and turning it into a very precise solution that restaurants and retail stores in Toronto were looking for. And it wasn't stress or force-based. It was something that I genuinely wanted to do. I took some assets that exist and the relationships were already there. For example, the first point-of-sale system that I built, which was for a bar/restaurant/lounge in Toronto, back in 2009, the business was called Midpoint Bistro on Queen West in Toronto. If you're in that area, it's no longer there, but you could look it up. I built the point-of-sale system for them. His brother, the owner of the restaurant, was actually living upstairs. He rented out a place for me to stay while I was downtown building my IT business. And so that was an asset which he gave for me at a very reduced rate as part of the deal. And his brother upstairs was genuinely interested in doing the programming work for the point-of-sale system. So the relationships and assets were available in close proximity. So not only am I talking about these assets or these diamonds, you can call it if you like the acres of diamonds way of looking at life inspired by Russell Conwell. I'm also speaking about your knowledge, your wisdom, your expertise, your life experience, your reference experience. You have all of that, and you have acquired all these things by simply existing. And as a matter of fact, you were born with the genuine desire to be who you are. You are already that which you desire to be. You already have what you desire. Existence is enough. You exist. Existence is enough. Existence is the love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment that you are seeking for. Yet you are that which you are seeking for. So you have everything. Now, once you know that you are completely fulfilled, what happens is naturally you get paid for simply existing. Practically speaking, you naturally do what you love to do. So it's one thing for me to say to you, do what you love to do. Follow your bliss. That could sound like things to do. All these things happen naturally in flow. They happen naturally. And what happens along the way is your knowledge, your wisdom, your life experience, your reference experience gets translated into money, translated into a career or entrepreneurship or something like that. For me, it was 10 years in corporate career. And then after that, I started and built an IT business to success from 2009 to 13. And then in 2013, I started my other YouTube channel. And then I also got into consulting. Now, all I did was I remained committed to the being I am all throughout the way. That's it. There were times where I was doubting. That's okay. There were times where I did not know how it was going to happen. That's okay. There were times where it felt stress, force-based, and at the times confusing or boring. That's okay. That's why in my book, there's a section called Remain Committed, and I put these 3 questions in there to bring you back to the center, the divine center, as James Allen said in his wonderful book, The Heavenly Life. The secret of life, of abundant life, with its strength, its felicity, and its unbroken peace, is to find the divine center within oneself and to live in and from that. Now, that could sound like a force-based thing to do. Go and find the divine center within yourself. You are actually that. You are already there in the divine center. So 3 simple questions that I put in the book that are worth exploring to bring the mind back to center. Or we could refer to this as heart-mind coherence. You can call it that if you would like. I personally call it flow. As while you're in flow, all these things like bringing your heart and mind into coherence happen naturally. They're coherence, you could say, in flow. So here are 3 questions that we can ask to bring us back to center, which is an illusory thing to say because you are already that which is centered. But we could say it this way, if it does not seem like you're centered. Number 1, am I acting from fear, pressure, or urgency? As mentioned, if a person hears the word entrepreneurship or getting paid, they may start thinking thoughts that are fear-based, force, stress-based, pressure, or urgency-based. Wanting, needing, waiting, craving. As I always say, no shame, no condemnation. You can, if you would like, no longer identify with those thoughts because those thoughts do not represent the divine center, which is the perfect joy, perfect happiness, perfect peace, perfect bliss, perfect fulfillment, as it is now. And you are that. In the Vedic scriptures, this is referred to as Sat Chit Ananda, existence consciousness bliss, or truth consciousness bliss. You exist, your real nature is bliss, or Ananda. Ananda may be translated into peace, joy, happiness, bliss. That is who you really are. And where do you experience that joy, that happiness, that peace, that bliss? You experience it in consciousness. So you are that pure awareness, your real nature prior to all these interpretations and appearances and interpretations to these worldly appearances. Your real nature is love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, Ananda, peace, joy, happiness. That is who you are, bliss. Now, it's not because I said so. It just naturally is experienced that way in flow. So you experience it where? You experience it in consciousness. You know who you are in consciousness. So if you are acting from fear, pressure, or urgency, you can release the identification to those thoughts and emotions subside. As I always say, energy in motion, that's emotion. Emotion is energy in motion. Through identification to fear-based, pressure-based, or urgency-based thoughts, the individual might not allow the emotions to arise and subside. Now, what happens then is you naturally remain committed to whatever plan, hunch, or inspiration that was received within via intuition. So you have a genuine desire to have $1 million, $2 million, $100,000, whatever you'd like. And you can get paid for simply existing. So what happens then from personal experience is you discover interests, hobbies, things that you love to do. You discover what you love to do. You discover what is that which represents that love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. And you naturally do it. So from personal experience, I grew up with computers. When I was a teenager, I would take apart the computers. I would reinstall the operating system. I would take out the hardware, put new hardware in, upgrade the RAM, and do all these things to the computer for fun, for no reason, because that is what I genuinely love to do. Now, interestingly, what would happen was when I would visit friends' houses or families' houses, they would say, hey, can you remove this virus off the computer? Can you help us set up the network? Can you help us with this? Can you help us with that? Can you install this game? Can you install this software? I just bought a new printer. Can you help us install it? And they would offer to pay me. And that didn't make any sense to me at the time because I didn't know I can get paid for existing. You exist and you naturally do what you love to do. And now all of a sudden people are offering you money for what you love to do. That didn't make any sense to me back then. And even what happened was I was working at this large retailer's warehouse when I was 19, 20 years old. And what happened was I saw a posting in the lunchroom for client support analysts. So a client support analyst for their head office was to take help desk calls. So people would say things like, my printer is not working, or my mouse is not working, or my computer is running very slow, or something like that. The network is giving me some errors. And they would call the corporate help desk, and then the techs would go and resolve whatever it is. And I said, they're going to pay for this? That was the thought. And so, long story short, I ended up getting that particular position. Interesting, I didn't get that position when I applied for it. I got another position called computer printer operator, where I was printing these reports and running backups, which was also, to me, unheard of, to get paid to just do what I love to do. And then later on, I got promoted to client support analyst and then technical analyst. And then here's another interesting thing. I used to work these warehouse jobs growing up. I used to get them through temp agencies. And they used to send me to these various distribution centers. I remember working in a distribution center, which was contracted by Kellogg's, I believe, to look after their logistics and their cereals and stuff like that, shipping, receiving stuff, and all that kind of logistics related. And I was fascinated by it. Some might say, well, this is just a warehouse job, but I was actually fascinated by it. I was so interested in how the conveyors work and all these areas. Now, that might not be for you, but I was genuinely interested in that. So when I got to a particular point in my corporate career, what happened was I got promoted to the technical analyst of the distribution centers, and we took care of the wireless networks, the warehouse management system. And again, it felt like I was just doing nothing and getting paid for existing. Now, at times, it felt like I was disconnected from the center. And for whatever the reason may be, you could say, and we know why, it's the conditioning that's stored in the subconscious mind. That conditioning that seems like I need to do something from a state of fear, pressure, or urgency that I was identified with. It generates what I call illusions of separation. I start to do this and that, and it's not genuinely what I want to do. I just do it because I think I need to do it under pressure, urgency, fear. And then the job that I genuinely love to do, or the business that I genuinely love to do, all of a sudden feels stress and force-based. And then I have seen personally that I started to do things that was not the things I genuinely desired to do. It was not the things that I could say are representative of the sure foundation of being that love, that happiness, that peace, that bliss, that joy, existence, consciousness, bliss. So remain committed is just a matter of releasing the identification. And then what happens? And by releasing the identification, you no longer identify with those thoughts. These kinds of questions allow us to return back to that center. It's very obvious if I do something from a state of fear, pressure, or urgency. And no shame, no condemnation. That's identification. Identification to these beliefs that result in the individual doing things from a state of fear, pressure, or urgency. I just release that identification. And then I remain committed. Now, interestingly, let's go back to the start of the mind map here. And if you want a copy of this mind map, the link is in the description. Get paid for existing. So I got paid for existing. What happened is how Steve Jobs said in his commencement speech, which I used to listen to over and over again while I was building my IT business. He said, you can connect the dots looking backwards. So I connect the dots looking backwards. I was genuinely interested in computers. I would do it for the love of it. Then I started getting paid to do it. I was interested in logistics, and then I'm getting paid to do IT services in a logistics environment. Then I got fascinated by entrepreneurship. I was fascinated by entrepreneurship before, but then an idea emerged to start an IT business, so I left my corporate career in 2009. I got paid for simply existing. And then at a particular point, I had developed the innovation, sales, marketing, operations, finance, and leadership skills, like I talk about in my entrepreneur program. If you're interested in that, I'll link in the description to it. And I decided to get into consulting. So I was no longer interested in doing the IT services. I lost interest in it, which is perfectly fine. See, you don't have to force yourself to do the same thing all the time. What happens sometimes is, as Steve Jobs said, you connect the dots looking backwards and you see each step along the way was valuable. At that particular point, I was interested in logistics. At a particular point, I was into IT. And even within IT, technology, there were points where I was so into Cisco routing and switching. I don't know if you know what that is, but I got certified. I passed the exam with 100%. And people ask me, how did you pass it with 100%? It's because when you genuinely do what you love to do, you do it in a way that appears to be magic to people. You know, take someone who loves to cook. They do whatever recipe so effortlessly that they might not even know how to teach someone how to make that recipe. They do it in a way that is so distinct in their style, because your style is the best style, their style is the best style, my style is the best style. It doesn't mean your style is better than my style or my style is better than your style. Our style is the best style. We just relate harmoniously together in flow. So all I teach is remain committed to the vision from a state of flow. So again, consistently remain committed to the vision from a state of flow. Why flow rather than stress, force, or frustration? Well, let's ask an honest question. Do you really want to live a life that is stress-based, force-based, frustrating, boredom-based? Or do you genuinely desire to live a fulfilling life? 2017, I was in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. I asked myself the question, when was I the most happiest, the most joyous, the most fun? When were results happening effortlessly, childlike? When were the clients just flowing in? When was the business growing? My style, it was while I was in flow. It was while I was in flow. And so I said, interesting. There were times in my life while I was in flow, everything was happening spontaneously. I can honestly say I was getting paid for existing. And then there were times in my life where I was identified with this stress, force-based beliefs. No shame, no condemnation. Those are beliefs stored in the subconscious mind. They are not you. You are prior to that. And as you know who you are that pure awareness. Your real nature is bliss, happiness, peace, joy. How do you know? By abiding as you are in the silence, in meditation, and also you don't have to sit down and experience your real nature. You experience your real nature in flow. Experientially, you feel bliss, happiness, peace, joy. Do you know that there is a neurotransmitter that is released just like in a meditation? It's released while you do what you love to do in a state of flow. It's called anandamide. Look it up, anandamide. It binds to CB1 and CB2, and it generates experientially the feeling of bliss. It also reconciles divergent and convergent thinking. So there's no doubt, no uncertainty, no confusion, no hesitation, just complete inner and outer as one in flow. That is why it's called anandamide. It's named after the Sanskrit word ananda. It's the bliss molecule. You actually experience it. It is released while in flow, just like it is released in a meditation. Let's look at the next question here. What would this look like if it were joyful and easeful? Now consider, I talk about in the book, you can optimize what you're doing. So take all these different areas of business: innovation, sales, marketing, operations, finance, leadership. You can optimize any one of these areas so it can be flow-based. You can delegate any one of these areas, parts that make up the whole, so you can do the thing that you love to do, the flow-based thing. You don't force yourself to get into the flow by forcing yourself to do something you don't want to do. You could do that if you would like, but personally, you just naturally, I find, do the thing that you love to do, and everything else gets taken care of in flow. So what happens then is parts, or even the entire piece, like for example, if a person says, I don't like marketing, that's okay. A firm or someone shows up in partnership and they take care of that for you. I can honestly say that from personal experience and working with thousands of businesses. That's what happens. And so then you just do what you love to do. And if it's not marketing, great. You do the fulfillment or whatever else. So it can be optimized in part or in whole, in some shape or form. It can be delegated. It can be automated, or it can be eliminated in part or in whole or in combination. And you can ask yourself this question: what would this look like if it were joyful and easeful? For me at a particular point, it would be joyful and easeful. This was later in my corporate career. It was joyful and easeful for me to do this as an entrepreneur, to acquire some clients where I can do what I'm doing in a corporate environment for a number of clients my style. Your style is the best style. My style is the best style. I have acquired knowledge, wisdom, expertise, reference experience along the way. And now I have a style of doing things. And my style of doing things, I know certainly, from the heart of awareness, you know certainly, which just means be as you are. And that can sound nebulous, be as you are. Here's a practical way to be as you are. Flow. Flow is a natural result of being as you are. Being as you are is the natural result of knowing who you are. You have that pure awareness prior to any thoughts of fear, pressure, urgency, stress base, etc. Your natural way is flow. That is the way of life, flow. Easeful, joyful. Thus, you can get paid for simply existing. It doesn't mean you force yourself to sit around on the couch waiting for things to happen. It means body spontaneously, naturally does or does not do whatever. That's sometimes a question that I get asked. What should I do? What should I not do? All these questions are answered, and all these things happen naturally in flow. So these questions, again from my book, are designed to return back to the center, to dissolve the illusions of separation instantaneously, so that you can remain committed. And remain committed is not a force-based thing. You naturally commit to the flow. That is a natural way of being. You naturally commit to what you love to do, and everything else gets taken care of. So if you imagine what it looks like, by returning to the center, you naturally imagine what that looks like. You imagine yourself doing that thing from a state of flow. You imagine yourself experiencing your business in a way that feels natural, authentic, resonant, you could use those words, joyful, easeful, and you know what that looks like. Now, what happens is once you see that in your imagination, you naturally commit to it. And then what happens is, interestingly, those diamonds, as I had mentioned earlier, the assets, the physical assets, digital assets, intangible assets, naturally emerge. You just naturally see it. It was always there. Those conditions, which are stored in the subconscious mind, those beliefs, distort reality. That's the way of saying it. Reality is fundamentally perfect as it is now. You know this by releasing the conditioning. As you release the conditioning, the experience can be described for the entrepreneur as getting paid for existing. So the third question is, where am I trying to force a result instead of aligning with it? See, aligning with it can also sound like a thing to do. Now it's time to align with it and try to figure out what the vibration or frequency or aligning is. That happens naturally through not identifying, and you could do nothing to not identify. By that it is meant be still. In the Bible, it says, be still. So if you ask a question like, where am I trying to force a result instead of aligning with it? You know exactly what it's pointing to. It's pointing to the natural order of things, which happens spontaneously and effortlessly. Then what happens after that is perhaps an idea naturally, it just naturally, spontaneously emerges in mind. You know what to do, what not to do, etc. Intuition. Or, I've seen this happen a number of times, I just start doing whatever it is. Or I stop doing whatever it was that was force-based. And then in the flow again we are. And then results start happening. Clients start showing up, etc., etc. Now, you know, I speak a lot about the revenue side of things when it comes to getting paid for existing, getting paid to simply exist. So your product, your service, whatever it may be, is naturally something that you love to do, maybe the whole of it, maybe part of it, and then again, you can have people that show up that take care of the automation, optimization, delegation, elimination, or you may like playing that role of coordinating as well. So then what ends up happening is you naturally focus on what Peter Drucker, who was a management consultant, a well-known management consultant, and I used to do management consulting as well when I left my IT business. As a matter of fact, I had a management consulting visa in 2017 and 18, and I was in California on a consulting deal on a management consulting visa, TN visa. I'm based out of Canada, and that was a lot of fun, and I may consider doing that again. As a matter of fact, if you are a business and you're considering bringing in me or someone to optimize these areas, and you're interested in bringing me on through a TN visa, you can email me, or if you're just interested in coaching or consulting in general, I'll put a link in the description to a contact form, and you can fill out the details and we can talk. So as mentioned, we're interested in getting paid for existing. By simply existing as the perfection you are beyond identification, without identifying, you just naturally do what you love to do. You just naturally follow your bliss, as Joseph Campbell said. And Peter Drucker, he said, because the purpose of the business is to create a customer, I like the word client, the business enterprise has two and only two basic functions, marketing and innovation. Marketing and innovation produce results, all the rest are costs. So he's not saying that the other areas that we spoke about, the operations, the finance, the leadership, those areas are not good. Those areas are areas that we should ignore, pretend like they don't exist, neglect them. That's not what he's saying. He's saying legitimately, you buy infrastructure, you bring on a team, you invest in a team, you pay for the logistics through the money that you bring in via the marketing and innovation. Now, I like to look at it as sales, marketing, and innovation. Sales, marketing, and innovation. So I keep this very simple and say, I engage in exploratory conversations with prospects and leads every day in a fun, joyous, flow-based way. And then what happens is the marketing results in acquiring clients. That is marketing. You can engage with prospects and leads online, offline, and do it in a way that you love to do so it doesn't feel stress. And force-based is what I teach. And I've worked with thousands of entrepreneurs. They naturally find their style of prospecting and lead generation. And then what happens is the client acquisition or the sales also naturally happens, effortlessly fun. So let's look at some of the ways that I have done it. Oh, and one more thing, the innovation. So innovation, I have ideas for products and services. Through the prospecting and the lead generation and through the exploratory conversations, may acquire some clients. And then through the conversations, I discover through the conversations their pains, needs, desires, frustrations, which are all opportunities, which then I can convert into products and services. Or I could offer another business's products and services to them and take a percentage on the deal or revenue split or an affiliate commission. Or I may partner with another business to create that product or service and offer that to the prospect or lead and then acquire the client. How much fun? None of this is stress and force-based. It only seems that way through identification to particular beliefs. And as you know, you are prior to those limiting beliefs. You can no longer identify with them. And it doesn't mean you have to do these things. You may do these things if you genuinely love to do it, as I love to do it. Or you may bring someone on to do it. They just naturally show up as well in flow. And it could be a person, could be a firm. Those are some examples. So here are some areas where prospecting, the word prospecting could sound force-based on the surface, feels very natural to me. Let's look at this. Attending niche-specific conferences or workshops. So I love going to workshops. I love going to conferences on particular topics, which just so happen to be where my ideal prospects are. And I engage in conversations with them, and they say to me, hey, can you do that for us? That's how I've acquired IT clients and consulting clients back in the days as well. Joining online communities and masterminds is a great way to meet prospects. It's also a great way to meet referral partners. It is also a great way, and it's fun and joyous, provided that the community is fun and joyous and there's no shame and condemnation. Like, for example, Flow-Based Prosperity, my group coaching and mastermind service. It is a place where we celebrate everything in entrepreneurship, the fun, joyous way, getting paid for existing. And so naturally what emerges within the group is relationships where there's referrals, business deals, etc. And even people providing prospects, leads, etc., exchanging, partnering. So thus, at the end of the day, what happens is you acquire in a fun, joyous way. You can host or attend networking mixers and roundtables. I've done that. I used to have a mastermind back in the days called Ready, Fire, Aim when I was running my IT business. I had acquired leads from that. I acquired business deals. As a matter of fact, one of the members, he started the 5-Minute Journal. His name is UJ Ramdas. You may know of the 5-Minute Journal. He was a member of my Ready, Fire, Aim sessions mastermind. We used to do it once a week. We used to meet in my place downtown. He was a member, and him and I used to actually meet up now and then and talk as well while he was putting that together. Next is be present in environments your ideal clients naturally frequent, maybe co-working spaces, wellness centers, etc., maybe particular places that you naturally want to travel to. You see how prospecting, if you look at it in a stress force-based way, then it goes against this true way of being, which is getting paid for existing. But when we see this is exactly what goes on in the theater of life, the theater of entrepreneurship specifically, which is part of the theater of life, we just naturally tend to do these things effortlessly in a fun, joyous, flow-based way. And none of this is stress or force-based or boring. Lead generation. You can host free live webinars or masterclasses, offer exclusive access to assets in exchange for email sign-up. For example, on my other channel, at one point, my email list was at 25,000 people at one point. 25,000 people. So how did I get 25,000 people onto an email list on Aweber? Well, what I did was I gave access to the mind maps. People enjoy the mind maps. They download them. They study them. They modify them. They're inspired by them. There are many, many benefits. Some have printed them out and framed them because they like the contents on there. And it serves as reminders. So that was valuable for people. And you could do the same as well. It could be mind maps, PDFs, whatever you'd like. And so what happens then is they join the mailing list. And then when I create a program or I mention coaching or flow-based prosperity or my book, a number of them are now aware of the product or service. And all I did was just write an email. All I did was just talk about what I'm excited about. And that happened naturally. It could sound like a force-based thing to do. Now it's time to sit there and forcefully talk about selling this product or service. That is not how it happens for me. It happens naturally in flow, and that is what I teach. Add opt-ins to your social media bio, links, etc. Client acquisition. Conduct exploratory conversations over Zoom. So, as you know, I'm a fan of exploratory conversations. I'm not trying to sell people stuff. I'm having a conversation, and they naturally talk about, at a particular point, their pains, their needs, their desires, their frustrations, and without shame and condemnation, I see them as opportunities to provide them something that is an ideal match for them. So they genuinely enjoy having those conversations, and they genuinely desire to have whatever result that they're looking for. And so the conversations do not feel forced or stress-based. They're fun, they're exploratory, and they don't say that it feels like a sales pitch or a sales conversation. There's no force, strong-arming, or anything like that. I have no desire to do that. I have not built my businesses by force, stress, or strong-arming. I've done it through exploratory conversations. That's what I like to call it. Because I trust that there are people out there who are genuinely interested. I certainly believe it, and I've experienced it, so I know it is like that. There are more people that are interested in what I'm offering that I could possibly ever meet. And I just go about my prospecting and lead generation, and I meet more and more people. Now, what happens at a particular point, we can call that market saturation if you would like. Although I don't necessarily see it as saturated, and why I say that is because what happens is at a particular point, through the exploratory conversations, an idea emerges for another solution or another product or another business or innovation, as Peter Drucker had mentioned. Through the marketing and through the exploratory conversations, what happens is you get more innovative ideas. So then what happens is we can say the business pivots, but the business grows. You can then get into another emerging technology, or look, for example, I've been in IT for so many years, but I've been out of it for a while. Now there's a lot of talk about AI, and I use AI personally as well. So there's a lot of benefits to applying technology, but the way we used to apply technology back in 2002, 3, 4, 5, 9, 10, 15 is a lot of times very different because we have newer technology that's easier, faster to use, and that's completely normal. Why would I force somebody to buy whatever kind of server that we were using back in 1999 if that's not the match for them? Why would I do it? And provided if it was a match, then I understand. But why would I force them to buy that server when there's some better solution that's easier, faster, that naturally emerges in the conversation? So I'm not attached to the business, the product, or service. I don't have, as I teach, I don't form an identity around the business, the product, or service. My genuine desire is to do what I love to do. That's your genuine desire. Your genuine desire is to be as you are. And so you get paid for existing. And so whatever it is that you do, whether today you're doing YouTube and tomorrow you're doing Instagram, today you're in IT, tomorrow you're in coaching, today you're in coaching, and then a year later you have a retail store, you get involved with real estate, I just align with the natural way. And upon connecting the dots, looking backwards, you see it all fit together in perfect harmony. So you can run email nurture sequences after they opt in. You can have personalized direct messages sent via Instagram, which is what I do. You can offer exploratory sessions for those that are not ready for one-on-one. And here's what I did in consulting. I have a number of consulting packages, and rather than offering it right out of the gate, which at times I may do, I intuitively feel that it was helpful for them to do one session with me where we put a lucid chart, flow chart on the screen, and we flow chart their business. And then we say, okay, here are the areas that we can work together on. And that is what we could do in our ongoing consulting arrangement. And they sign up. The next is ongoing client relationships. Consider that if a client has a great relationship, which is why I'm a fan of lifelong client relationships rather than seeing this as transaction, like I'm just going to get money from you and then see you later. Lifelong client relationships, what we find is they come back and buy additional products and services. They may take up a recommendation for a product or service where you can get a referral fee, multiple sources of income. Or you can partner with another business to serve them in a different way. I've had IT clients from back in the days do consulting deals with me on the marketing and sales side of their business. Then also, some of them bought my subconscious mind program. So you see how ongoing client relationships, when we see it as lifelong relationships, we allow that space for opportunities to emerge. So here are some ways. Schedule regular check-ins, celebrate milestones and client wins publicly with permission or with them privately or within a group, mastermind, etc., community. Create an exclusive client community for peer support and host client appreciation events, virtual or live. Client appreciation events, my style of doing this is flow-based prosperity, my group coaching and mastermind service. We do these meetups. So a couple weeks ago, we did a meetup in Toronto and we did one in New York. And all I do is celebrate everyone's accomplishments, their wins, and things that they have done. They enjoy it. They have a lot of fun. They network. They mastermind. They build lifelong relationships. And they're appreciated for applying the information. And what I have seen time and time again, and if you're interested in seeing the pictures of the events, I'll link in the description to the page, which has a whole bunch of events that we did with flow-based prosperity meetups. This is an example in relation to this client appreciation event, we can call it. It's very down to earth, laid back. There's no stress or frustration. It certainly does not feel like a pitch for ongoing client relationships. Yet what happens is I may get ongoing consulting deals. They end up referring people to me. Opportunities emerge, and they have a lot of fun. And I have a lot of fun as well. We've done this in San Diego, San Francisco, Florida, Playa del Carmen, Mexico, New York, Toronto, Tampa Bay. We've done them in small groups, larger groups. And you see how all of this is just me existing? All I'm doing is just doing what I love to do. And that could sound like a force-based thing to do, forcing myself to do what I love to do. I'm not. I'm just doing what I love to do as that naturally happens in flow. And flow is the natural result of being as you are, fully committed to being as you are. And you can ask these questions to return back to the divine center, which you are already that. So it's just dissolving the illusory person that thinks that they are not in the divine center, which in the Bible is called the old man. And remaining as you are is a natural result of knowing who you are. You are that pure awareness. Your real nature is Ananda, bliss, happiness, peace, joy. You are that pure awareness. Your real nature is bliss, happiness, peace, joy. Ananda, where do you experience it? You experience it in consciousness. So you get paid in consciousness. This is all appearing in consciousness. You get paid for simply existing as that perfection you are. So I trust you found this video to be helpful. If you'd like a copy of this mind map, the link is in the description. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk with you soon. Take care.